Whenever I hear that music, it fills me with hope, and it really encourages me. And it reminds me of one of Hawkins' famous quotations: "While there's life, there's hope." Hope and I have become firm friends. My life has taught me to fully embrace it, because I've experienced what it feels like to lose all hope. I'm Laura Ashurst, and for the last 17 years, I've been a cancer patient at James Cook University Hospital in Middlesbrough. I'm one of the 1 in 8 women worldwide that develops breast cancer in her lifetime. I've lived over a third of my life with cancer in it. It's a disease which has forced me to look deep within myself and ask myself lots of questions, many of which I'm still trying to find the answer to. One of those questions is this: how am I going to live my life with the time I've got left? Everybody here will have been affected by cancer, either directly or indirectly. It's a disease which still in 2018, despite huge advances in medical science in the last 20 years, is capable of striking fear into our very core upon being told you have cancer. Cancer is a great leveller. It doesn't care about age, race, gender, social status, career achievements, or money. It writes its own rules. I first heard those dreaded words, "you have cancer," when I was 34. I was working as a senior lecturer in a college in the northeast of England. Our daughter Megan was 3, and we'd just had our second child, Jack, who'd been born 6 months earlier, weighing a whopping 10 pounds 6 ounces. It was a big shock to be told that I had cancer at 34. I knew absolutely nothing about the disease then, other than I naively thought it was something that affected people much older than me. I was advised that I wouldn't need a mastectomy and that a lumpectomy would sort it. This is where the tumour is removed from the breast and the remainder of the breast is left intact. I was also advised to have 25 sessions of radiotherapy to mop up any stray cells and zap them dead. And I was prescribed the breast cancer drug tamoxifen. I didn't really give my diagnosis of breast cancer the attention it deserved. I didn't take the time to answer any of the big questions. I changed nothing in my life, and I simply put it behind me and got on with my busy life with my husband Paul and my 2 small children. Except that breast cancer had another plan for me. 3 years later, aged 37, I developed another tumour in the same breast. This tumour was more complex and aggressive than the first tumour 3 years earlier, and it was a huge shock. I thought I had this disease all sorted. I thought I was the one in charge, and I thought I'd waved bye-bye to breast cancer. I actually thought I was invincible back then. Instead, several weeks later, I was in hospital having my right breast removed, and on the same day, a plastic surgeon created a new breast for me using muscle and tissue from the right side of my back. You will all be able to recall a defining moment in your lives, a time when you knew that from that point forwards, your life would never be the same again. It might have been for a very positive reason. For others, it will have been a life-changing event that wasn't accompanied by that warm, rosy glow of achievement or happiness. Mine was December the 12th, 2007, 6 years after my original diagnosis. The day I sat in front of an oncologist and was told that I had incurable secondary breast cancer in my lungs, that it was terminal, and that my life expectancy going forwards was 3 to 6 months if I chose not to have chemotherapy, and up to 2 years if I chose chemotherapy. I was 40 years old. It was 2 weeks before Christmas. Jack was 6, and Megan was almost 10. There really aren't any words to describe how you feel when you're told, aged 40, that you're going to die from cancer. processing that kind of information doesn't come with a guidebook. My world as I knew it literally came crashing down around me. I was devastated, traumatised, and afraid. Once Christmas was over, we somehow found the words to tell the children that Mummy's cancer had returned. When Jack asked me if I was going to die, I had a pain so acute in my heart that I thought it might break, and the look of fear on my daughter's face will be etched in my memory forever. So I lied to them both, and I said, "No, not for a very long time." To which he replied, "Good, can I go and play now?" I looked at his little freckled face and his mop of ginger hair as he skipped out of the door, and I sank even further into my mental hole of despair. I was emotionally broken. I needed high doses of diazepam and antidepressants to get through each day, and when I wasn't sleeping, caused by chemotherapy-induced fatigue, I spent most of my time projecting myself forwards to my funeral, which we planned in great detail. Every day, I visualised the world without me in it. I'd lost all hope, and I needed urgent help. My referral to Dr. Annie Hickox, a clinical neuropsychologist, proved to be a monumental turning point for me. She has shown me, and she continues to show me, how our brain and the parts of it that process our thoughts and emotions can be our very best friend or our worst enemy, causing us to doubt ourselves and our abilities and ultimately stopping us from leading joyful, fulfilling lives. Psychological intervention helped me to cope with my thoughts and feelings, and it helped me to break free from the chronically debilitating prison of worry that I'd locked myself into. It helped hope re-enter my life. She helped me to develop skills and strategies to live more presently, to experience the moment more, and to focus on each day that I was experiencing, rather than projecting myself forward to a future without me in it, or looking back with regret and sadness. I was spending precious time waiting to die, and instead of living. One of the things that I learned during that process of trying to live more presently is that you don't have to have a life-limiting disease to be vulnerable. As human beings, we are all vulnerable, and those vulnerabilities present themselves differently within each of us, because every single person here today faces their own challenges on a daily basis, and they will be different to the person sat next to you. What we do all share in common is that we all require support to be the person we are. Support to help us cope with the vulnerabilities of being human, and support to be the very best version of us. I stand here on this stage, and what you see is my exterior veneer, the part we all present to the world. That external shell that helps to hide our vulnerabilities from the world around us. But it also coats our inner strength, that part of us that helps to build the foundations of hope. My hope has been strengthened by the external support from the people around me. My husband and my children, my wider family and friends, my oncologist and my clinical psychologist, who all helped me to be the person I am today. But what I've learned about hope is that it's the internal support that we give ourselves, support in the form of time and space to look deep within ourselves, to look at who we really are, and to nurture that life force within us that really helps to build hope. I'm here today because something rare and unusual happened, which means that I've far exceeded my original prognosis. My body started to make a response to a drug called letrozole, a drug that sits in a family of drugs called aromatase inhibitors. The drug started to do something that my oncologist was totally surprised by. It started to mop up the cancer in my lungs, and it is currently controlling the cancer and keeping it at bay. I've exceeded my original prognosis by 8 years, and I've entered the category of exceptional survivor, as described by a team of breast cancer researchers at the University of Wisconsin-Carbone Cancer Center in America. I'm one of a few dozen women who are taking part in a unique research project led by Professor Mark Burke, who's looking at people who are still alive 10 years after their diagnosis of terminal breast cancer. I'm their only participant from outside of the United States. Worldwide, there's very few people like me. To say that I'm grateful for this extra time is an understatement. The average life expectancy for somebody diagnosed with secondary breast cancer is approximately 3 to 5 years. I became friends with 7 people who were all diagnosed around the same time as me. And of that group of women, I'm the only one left alive. I live in hope on a day-to-day basis that I remain stable for as long as possible. But along with that, I have to manage the guilt that I feel that others around me have died, leaving their families and friends to cope with that loss. As hope re-entered my life and I started to live again, I wanted to find ways to answer the question, how can I live my life with the time I've got? For me, I've found purpose and hope in becoming a campaigner with the Cancer Campaign team, the political lobbying wing within Cancer Research UK. My proudest achievement as an ambassador with them is being part of a team who successfully lobbied the government for the abolishment of glitzy cigarette packaging. Children now have one less reason to start a habit which eventually kills 1 in 2 of its users. By being a Cancer Campaign ambassador, I can help to bring about changes in legislation so that more people's lives in the future have their lifetime cancer risk reduced. In a very small way, I like to think I'm helping CR UK to make a difference. Breast Cancer Care's Secondary, Not Second-Rate campaign is another campaign that is really close to my heart. This campaign is highlighting the woeful lack of support and services for people living with secondary breast cancer. And as a long-term survivor of that disease, I've been able to speak nationally on their behalf, and I've helped to secure £50,000 of funding to support that campaign. Being an ambassador is a wonderful opportunity. It's given me a chance to help others affected by cancer, and it's allowed me to find a voice in the world of campaigning. My lived experience as a cancer patient really helps me to understand the issues that people diagnosed with cancer face. I have my tumour markers tested every 16 weeks, and in between rounds of tumour marker testing, I've been given something which is priceless and which is cherished amongst patients like me. And that is extra time. Extra time to see my children grow into young adults. Extra time to live, and extra time to spend with the love of my life, Paul. Time is something that we never seem to have enough of. But what's wonderful is that we can choose how we live with the time that we've got. I choose to live mine with hope. Thank you for listening to my story.